Happy Halloween and how's it going, internet? J Gaming Dude here, and this time around, with the release of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which I absolutely have no interest in watching because I have no interest in the actual lore and background and you know what, just anything about Five Nights besides playing the first game for a bit. It's got me wondering, and I kind of came across this strange article from a place that I've never known about, Collider, is it? Yeah, Collider, saying that after Five Nights at Freddy's, that Outlast should be the next horror video game adaptation. And I thought that's an interesting thought because when I think about horror games that should get a sort of more live action adaptation, Outlast wasn't necessarily the first one that came to my mind, but it certainly felt like it was a good idea. I mean, I'm sure that like the legality behind some of the stuff that they would have show or not show, I suppose it just depends on how you want to look at it. Because there's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on in those games. Specifically Outlast 1, let's just kind of keep it simple and short with just that one game, because Outlast 2 is kind of like its own nightmare bunch of like things that could go horribly wrong. And I mean, like, I suppose when you look at horror, Doom made for a decent adaptation. I had fun with it watching it back in 2005, so I feel like they could redo that anytime soon. And I suppose if we're talking indie, there's a lot of indie horror games and a lot that aren't particularly good. And I suppose, again, if you look at it, you know, Alien was a really good series of movies. Could they potentially make a sequel and then, heavily base a lot of what Alien Isolation was into it? Could Amnesia get its own, sort of movie adaptation? Potentially, with all of the background imagery. There's a lot of lore behind Slender the Arrival and a lot of like sort of fanfic taken from the internet. You could probably use that as a basis for a fairly decent either Amnesia or hell even a Slender movie. Like there's a lot that you could go about doing all of this, and it's interesting how Outlast was the one that this particular author thought of it. What's the name of the author? It is Aidan Kelly. So, yeah, maybe. Like, I could kind of see that happening, but I feel like the nature of Outlast was more the, runny, hidey, chasey sort of scenario. Granted, it feels more like it would be better as a slasher flick, but even then, the idea of a slasher flick is that the main character kind of needs to be wielding an item that could be used for slashing with. Like, for example, Freddy's claws from Nightmare on Elm Street, or Jason's chainsaw from Friday the 13th, or No, Jason had a different weapon. Was it an axe? I can't remember. Crap, I can't even remember his weapon. The chainsaw I was thinking of was Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I've been playing with a bunch of friends, so I've got chainsaws on the mind, alright? I will absolutely admit it. I feel like this is kind of like a really good theme for like my Halloween Day video to be making, which I suppose kind of works out really well for me now that I think about it. But yeah, even with that said, like, I feel like you could make a lot of different types of movies. Granted, jump scares, probably not the most ideal. That's why I didn't really think that Slender was such a good idea. I mean, even then, you could have like a main character who's going out looking for their maths homework, being chased by a creepy stalker that has no face. And that kind of lives between two different like planes of reality. Like, that in itself is an interesting idea. And then what else have you got? Like, Slender the Arrival tried to also tell a story, so you could potentially take that idea. And I feel like I'm kind of jumping in and out, but like, again, going back to the idea of making another Alien movie, but basing it off of the content of what Alien Isolation was. A single alien. Not getting too sort of into the nitty gritty of like, say, Weyland Yutani, or hell, the Marines, or anything like that. It's just a single individual and a bunch of machines, just kind of in where the original Alien movie kind of took place, and that there's still an alien there. Like there's significantly less likely to be retconning of other characters, but like they kind of did with Alien Colonial Marines as a video game adaptation to a technical sequel to Aliens. Was it supposed to be? No, yeah, it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a sequel to Aliens, which is a sequel to Alien. Okay, I wanted to make sure I pronounced the S at the end of Aliens right. And even then, I suppose the reverse. Let's actually try to think of like movies that could make good video game adaptations. Because like Saw was an obvious one, but they did make 2 Saw movies with Saw and Saw 2 Flesh and Blood. Unfortunately, those weren't particularly good. So I feel like I feel like they could have done a lot better. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they could have made for a better, single player horror game where you could play both sides in a way, like they do with the multiplayer, but just make it more of like a single player story thing. Friday the 13th, of course, Predator did have these sorts of games, and now Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Not sure why they're sticking with the whole aspect of keeping it a asynchronous multiplayer mode. It's just kind of a bit more of a turn off, because I don't think horror fans are really like also fans of multiplayer games, like coming together and playing sports, for example. I feel like we're kind of like more of like the creepy keep each other, separated as much as humanly possible type of individuals. But that's maybe just being a little bit too harsh on like horror movie fans. And even then, I've kept things very, very normie, for example, because I could absolutely see there being like a video game adaptation of like, say, a movie like Audition, for example, which kind of falls more alongside the what's it called, the along the lines of like an Until Dawn or a The Dark Pictures anthology. Like you could absolutely base it off of the creepy chick from Audition, where you are like trying to kill off all of these people who are trying to get close to this one guy that this fake audition was supposed to be finding a suitable partner for. Or Visitor Q, a strange movie. Crap, what is actually the director of Visitor Q? I need to look that up, because I'm pretty sure like his movies were a great example. Yeah, Takashi Miike, yes, this is a guy. So like I already like said Visitor Q, and also Audition are a couple of his movies. Like again, Kuroshia Ichi, or Ichi the Killer, which was based off of a manga series of the exact same name. I could absolutely see that being great material for a video game if like One-chanba, which was originally a video game series, got a live action adaptation in 2008 that I also just so happen to have a DVD of. I'm getting really into the weeds of like how this could really get, because again, like trying to keep it like as normie as possible with like this earlier suggestions I had earlier on in the video, and then like all of the stuff about me just purely going on about, say, Takashi Miike's movies and examples of like stuff that he's made that could be then turned from like the movies that they are into a potential video game adaptation, given that most horror movies going into video game adaptations are now these sort of multiplayer games. Again, as mentioned with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And now, like, thinking about it, I'm surprised they didn't do one for Nightmare on Elm Street. And I could totally see that being the case, where you're, like, everyone is, like, playing as the kids, and then there's, like, one person who's Freddy. Or if they wanted to do like sort of a battle royale again, they could do like a Freddy versus Jason type of thing, but then get other villains like how MKX got like a bunch of like horror movie villains put together. And then they throw in a bunch more characters. And then again, those characters are also kind of appearing in Call of Duty whatever their free-to-play thing is, Warzone. Yes, they're all appearing in Warzone now. It's just a sort of very interesting mix-up, mash-up, all over the place sort of thing. So I feel like there's a lot of things that could be really good ideas, but no one is doing them. Instead, they're doing like these sort of really weird cameos at other types of games. So I think at the end of the day, I just went on an absolute bender actually just now. Trying to think about like, okay, Outlast being like this next horror video game adaptation into a live action movie like they did with Five Nights at Freddy's as an example. Like, you know, what that next thing could be. And now I feel like I've just gone on an absolute tirade. And it's just like sort of the ramblings of like some just crazy person who likes, you know, the horror genre. Like, I like my horror video games, but I prefer them to be single player. I like my horror movies, but I don't like them to be torture porn. So then you kind of find yourself in like this sort of really weird mix of like Saw and Hostel making good video game adaptations, and then we get crappy ones like Saw and Saw 2 Flesh and Blood. Wait, hold on, was Saw 2 called Flesh and Blood? Actually, you know what? That's a good point. I wonder about that. It was Saw 2 Flesh and Blood. I'm pretty sure it was called that, wasn't it? Yeah, Saw 2 game was actually called Flesh and Blood. That's insane to think about. I did not expect to get the name correct, first and foremost. That is actually pretty damn funny. And I mean, like, Manhunt as a video game going to a live action adaptation, yeah, that has a lot of baggage to it, but I could totally see that happening, and then that would be kind of like a torture porn and by way of Saw, Hostel, but I think probably closer to like a far more like a Serbian film. It's pretty much a reverse of a Serbian film on top of it. God, like, man, I have gone on an absolute fender bender right now on like just ideas, thoughts, and I feel like it's just going to be an incoherent mess when I release this video on Halloween. But I feel like there's so much material here. Man, I need to do some research and actually like make some videos on this, because like before this recording of this video, just to, you know, open the, you know, pull back the curtain a little bit, I didn't know what videos I was going to make. But now I'm like, god damn, like I upload daily and I try to come up with like video, like random video ideas. I get ideas from other people, but man, after just randomly coming across this one article, I'm like, who knows where we could be, and who knows, like this video could be like pretty damn long as well. Like I could either make a single video that's like a couple hours long, just going on and on about like what could happen, what can be, how you can make things work, and get into the nitty gritty. Again, the idea of just using Takashi Miike's you know, movies as like potential video game adaptation material, just thinking about it, that would be nuts. Also, I hit my nose on the microphone, and I think you might have heard that, but I'm gonna pretend I didn't. Man, like there's so much material. But anyway, that's one man's tirade on an insane. I don't even know if there was like a point to this. I'm just gonna be like, I don't even know what I'm gonna call the video. I'll just try and clickbait it. Let's see if I can clickbait this video. Oh, no one's gonna watch it. I don't really have many people. Please subscribe to the channel. Yeah, please. I want my videos to get to more people. People are barely watching my stuff as it is. But yeah, very much I would like to actually make some of these like ideas that I've just been spouting out as like actual videos. Like the video if you like my absolute insane tirade on all of this. And you know, comment below like what are your thoughts on Takashi Miike's movies. I would very much like to hear it. Tokyo Gore Police, that was another one I didn't mention, but you know what, let's just go with it. With all of that said and done, I do upload daily. And before I go on like an absolute mental breakdown on like just the ideas and just the thoughts and everything going around in my mind in terms of like horror movies, video games, and everything else in between, I will see you guys tomorrow because I upload daily. Peace. God, that's nuts. Oh man. Man, some good ideas though.